Hello, everybody. I wanted to make a video on high functioning autism and masking. The reason I wanted to make this video, yes, that's you. Okay. The reason I wanted to make this video was because I have received the paperwork on my son and my daughter and their diagnosis, and read up on the paperwork and where they fall on the spectrum and so on and so forth. So they had to score a 9 or higher to be considered on the spectrum. And my son scored a 14 and my daughter scored an 11. And the scoring was a combination of things. So they took my answers on a survey in regards to each child. They took my answers. They took they asked a bunch of questions on things that I've observed or noticed in my children. They took those, but they also took the school and what the school had to say about them into consideration. And they also ran IQ tests and stuff on both my children. And so according to my observations and the answers that I gave to the questionnaire, that would put my kids at moderate, close to severe autism, and the school would put them at mild or not even on the spectrum. And the testing that they did there in the office, like the IQ testing and that sort of thing, kind of puts them on barely on the spectrum. So obviously what they do is they put everything together and they really just focus on, are there sensory problems present and are there social problems present? And if there is, then they rate that and put them on the spectrum. But I want to go into what doctors observe and what schools observe versus what you as the parent observes. So there's this wonderful thing called masking, which people with autism tend to do, especially if they're higher functioning and especially if they're female. Females with autism have perfected masking, and that could be why a lot of females don't get diagnosed or get misdiagnosed. And when you're high functioning, when you can talk and when you can socialize, it's just difficult. Or, when your symptoms of autism just aren't as prominent or present, or can kind of come off as ADHD, it's very, very hard to put you on the spectrum due to the masking and due to being a female, because boys actually have a little bit of a harder time with masking. So my son, I never really actually suspected him of autism, and he ended up being just a tad bit higher on the spectrum than my daughter, who I've always suspected of autism. So that was interesting. But it is clear that there is masking going on at school. And I know this because I did it. And I do it all the time. I mask all the time. I kind of put on the persona of other people around me, kind of hide what I'm going through internally. And that has got to be what's going on at the schools for my children. And so this leads to the schools not observing the same things that I have observed, but the school's observations still end up getting put into play and placing them pretty low on the spectrum. She is the one who scored an 11, and my son scored a 14. So when it comes to this, speak to your specialist, whoever you're seeking out, about masking. If you have noticed that the school is... Let's pause that. If you are noticing that the school is not really noticing autism or barely noticing the autism, talk to the specialist diagnosing your child and bring up, could masking be involved? Could this be what's happening? Could this be what's going on? Is this going to put my kid lower on the spectrum than where they really stand? So much misdiagnosis happen, so much inaccuracy, especially for females. I personally feel she is higher on the spectrum than my son. But they at least have their diagnosis. And again, when it comes to high functioning, which they both are high functioning, but again, my son, he was talking at 2 years old. Oh, she wasn't. So
it's not was.
It varies. No, not at 2. It varies. Every child's different. They may be, they have their strong suits and their weak points. They may be strong in one area and weak in another, but both be high functioning. It just all depends. But high functioning can tend to go misdiagnosed and kind of, I don't even know where my brain is anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video on just, keep an eye out for what the school says versus what you say. Talk to the specialist about masking, and there you have it.